Everybody, for anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Shannon Pratt. I am the Creative Industries Development Officer here at Innovation PEI. I have been working at Innovation PEI in this role for about 5 years now. On this call today, I am joined by, I believe, 2 of my colleagues, which is like even more exciting. So we have new to our team, Eliane Laberge. Is that the right way to say your last name? I should have asked that before we got on here. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Eliane recently joined our team. She was working remotely for a couple months, and now she is here with us live in person. She's the new bilingual cultural development officer. So you're going to be seeing a lot more of her in the coming days and weeks and months and hopefully years. And we also have our colleague, Megan Brander, who has joined us. For those of you who work in the film industry, you are likely familiar with Megan's work. She is the film industry growth specialist. Megan, I won't make you turn on your camera and say hi unless you really want to. But just for everybody who's on the call, and if anybody has any film-specific questions, we might tag Megan into this conversation later. We'll just see how it goes, because I do know we have a couple of film people on the call today. So, yeah, Eliane, do you want to say anything before we jump in?
Yeah, donc bonjour tout le monde. Je me présente, Eliane Laberge. Je suis nouvellement employée d'innovation IPE en tant qu'agente de développement culturel bilingue. Donc, comme Shannon l'a mentionné, je me suis joint à l'équipe récemment. J'ai déménagé de Gatineau au Québec pour venir travailler ici à Lille et j'ai bien hâte de pouvoir vous soutenir dans vos projets et puis de travailler avec vous. So, thank you for having me.
And one other thing I'm going to say, as we still have a couple of folks joining us as we get started here, just a quick reminder off the top that we are recording this. So hopefully everybody is comfortable with that. We have everybody temporarily muted so that we can get through the presentation part of this to start with. But we will open things up for questions after we've gone through a very, very quick slideshow. Like, it's super fast. And yeah, okay, let's get started. So yes, this is the PEI Arts Grant Chat. For those of you who aren't familiar with the grants, they are here to support professional artists who are living and working on in Prince Edward Island. The grants are done through a juried application process, which I think is probably one of the biggest things we'd like to try and get across to everybody, because I do think there is always some confusion about how the granting process is decided. So we follow a Canada Council model, which is considered best practices straight across Canada and how to do it. It is a jury of your peers, and those jury members come from a variety of disciplines across the island. So we like to always have somebody from writing and publishing, from music, from film, from visual arts. We like to, if whenever possible, we always try to make sure that we have an Indigenous representative on the jury. We also try really hard to make sure we have additional BIPOC representation on the jury, so that it is a jury that most closely resembles PEI as it currently exists.
Donc, les subventions aux arts de l'île du Prince-Édouard ont pour but de soutenir, stimuler, mettre en valeur le milieu artistique culturel de l'île du Prince-Édouard. Et donc, on octroie des subventions à des artistes professionnels de l'île par l'entremise d'un processus de demande qui comprend une évaluation par un jury. Donc, c'est important pour nous de vous mentionner qu'on suit le modèle du Conseil des arts du Canada en ce qui concerne le jury avec des pairs. Donc, ce sont des gens qui représentent différentes disciplines artistiques, pardon. Donc, ils viennent de toutes sortes de background, que ce soit les arts visuels, la musique, le film. Donc, on essaie d'avoir des jurys qui sont le plus représentatifs possible de la communauté artistique de l'île du Prince-Édouard et des jurys qui sont diversifiés aussi.
So, as you may have heard, our next application deadline is coming up It hurts me to say this in a couple of weeks that we're already this far into October. I have a lot of feelings about it. That's between me and Mother Nature. But the application deadline is October 25th at 4 p.m. I'm just going to really stress on the 4 p.m. part of that. It's not 4:05, not 4:30, and it's not midnight. It is 4 p.m. Prince Edward Island time on October 25th. Because the applications are done through an online portal, that portal does shut down. So you want to make sure that you are in there and working on your thing. Because at 4 p.m., if you try and log in and start an application, you will not be able to. Plus, everything is timestamped, so we'll know that you tried to anyway.
Donc, date limite, une date très importante à retenir pour ce intake, dans le fond, des subventions aux arts, c'est le 25 octobre, la date limite, et c'est le 25 octobre à 16 heures, donc à 4 heures, heure de l'Atlantique. C'est très important pour vous de soumettre votre demande avant 4 heures parce que c'est fait à travers un portail, un formulaire en ligne qui ne sera plus disponible après 16 heures le 25 octobre. Donc, très, très important pour vous de garder ça en tête. On ne peut pas recevoir de demandes là, qui sont en retard.
One other thing I will say about the application deadlines, because we see this happen every year. So I just want to put this little bug in everybody's ear. You do not have to wait until October 25th to submit your application. I would highly recommend that you submit it as soon as possible. There are a couple of reasons for that, but the main reason is so many people wait until October 25th that sometimes bad things happen to the machinery and you end up having technical difficulties or something happens and then you end up getting very frustrated and we may or may not be able to help you at that point. So if you're able to work a little in advance of the application deadline, I highly, highly, highly recommend that.
Donc, juste
Can't
pour
stress it enough.
je vais réitérer ce que Shannon a dit en français. Donc, on vous encourage vraiment, vraiment à soumettre vos demandes avant la date limite, de vous prendre un petit peu à l'avance pour éviter des pépins techniques. C'est possible parfois que vos fichiers, vous ayez de la difficulté à les télécharger, ou il peut y avoir des petits pépins techniques à ce niveau-là. Puis nous, on n'est pas nécessairement en mesure de vous aider là, à 16 heures le 25 octobre avec ce genre de choses-là. Donc, on vous encourage là, fortement à soumettre là, vos demandes avant le 25 si possible.
Just can't stress it enough.
Yeah.
All right, so there are 3 different types of grants that are available to professional artists in PEI. There is the Create grant, which previously was known as Creation. There is the Share grant, which you may have known in a previous timeline as Dissemination. And there is the Learn grant that was previously referred to as Professional Development. We changed the name of these, I believe, earlier this year in an attempt to kind of simplify things because we found that oftentimes we're not always great at talking in plain language. And sometimes the things that we're asking for, we might think are super, straightforward and understandable. And we're using overly complicated language. So we're trying to limit that as much as possible. So we made these very small, simple changes that hopefully make it a little bit easier for people to understand what is really covered in each of those grants. So create, share, and learn.
Donc, le programme de subvention aux arts offre 3 types de subventions pour appuyer les arts et les artistes de l'île du Prince-Édouard. Donc, il y a le volet créer, le volet partager et le volet apprendre. Et comme Shannon le mentionnait, ces noms-là ont changé récemment. On essaie de vraiment simplifier le langage qu'on utilise pour que ce soit le plus accessible possible pour vous. On ne veut évidemment pas rendre ça compliqué inutilement. Donc, voilà. Et puis, on a essayé de vraiment là, être très clair dans ce qui est admissible là, sous chaque volet du programme.
So as I mentioned before, we operate on with a peer assessment jury. It is a model that is based on Canada Council, which is considered best practices. There are always 6 jurors from different artistic practices, like I mentioned, film, writing, music, visual arts, dance, theater. We try and really cover the whole spectrum if we can. That jury, how it works is once all of the applications have been received and we review everything to make sure that it is actually eligible. Sometimes we get things that aren't. So just to save that extra little bit of work from our juror, we do a quick pass to make sure everything is actually eligible. We package it up for the jurors. The jurors have on average between 2 to 3 weeks to make their initial recommendations. I say 2 to 3 weeks because it really does depend on the volume of applications that we receive, and I think I'll get into that on another slide, but if not, I will for sure mention it. So they do that. Once all of their recommendations have been made, that information comes back to us. We put all of those recommendations together. So we have like a big working like document, basically, like it's a giant spreadsheet. It's not fun. I'm not gonna lie. Eliane, you and I are in for a real treat when I teach you how to do it, because it's never my favorite day putting all that information together. Because there's a lot of it, which is exciting, but also daunting. And then from that giant document that we create, we bring the jurors all together in person for a whole day. And it usually is a whole day. If anybody on here has ever sat on a jury that I've run, it can be a very long day, and I apologize and thank you in advance. And then from there, they review applications again in person. They have time to actually discuss applications. They can go through the ins and outs of, what decisions they've made or assumptions they've made or whatever it is. So they spend a lot of time discussing the projects, really looking closely at the budgets, really looking closely at the actual like project plans, and really looking closely at artist CVs to make sure they're actually professional artists who are being considered for these grants. And then at the end of that day, they make their final recommendations, and then it comes back to us. We have no say in this process whatsoever. I cannot stress that enough for people, because I know that is often a misunderstanding that is out in the world. The jurors who are reviewing the applications, they make all of the decisions. They give us their recommendations. We then reach back out to all of the artists and let them know what the jury recommendations are, and then we just go from there. And then when everything is said and done, after, contracts are issued and people are notified and press releases go out, hopefully, we do up an arts grant report. They are all posted on our website. We will put a link in the chat later if anybody wants to take a look at that. I always recommend that people do check out those art grant reports, because it gives you an idea of not only the kinds of projects that have been historically funded, but also what the jurors are actually looking for when they are evaluating those projects.
Merci Shannon. Donc, je vais essayer de dire tout ce qu'elle a dit, mais de manière plus condensée peut-être. Alors, on a vos demandes que vous allez soumettre sont évaluées par un jury d'évaluation par les pairs qui suit le modèle du Conseil des arts du Canada. Et ça, c'est un modèle qui utilise les meilleures pratiques pour évaluer les demandes de subvention. Donc, c'est un jury qui est composé de 6 personnes provenant de différentes pratiques artistiques. Donc, on essaie vraiment que ce soit un jury diversifié pour vraiment bien comprendre les demandes qu'on reçoit et les évaluer de manière juste. Ensuite de ça, chaque volet des programmes de subvention aux arts ont des critères d'admissibilité qui sont différents selon le programme. Donc, on vous encourage à faire attention, à bien consulter ces informations-là. Et puis, ensuite, une fois que les demandes sont reçues, Shannon et moi, on fait une première, on passe au travers pour s'assurer que les demandes reçues sont admissibles, parce que ça peut arriver parfois qu'elles ne le sont pas. Donc, on fait ce travail-là en amont, puis ensuite, les demandes sont soumises au jury d'évaluation par les pairs. Donc, eux ont 2 à 3 semaines là, pour revoir là, les demandes, et ils vont avoir une grille d'évaluation pour pouvoir les évaluer. Lorsque ça c'est terminé, les pairs, le jury nous renvoie ces informations-là. Shannon et moi, on va compiler tout ça dans un beau gros document et ça sert ensuite à animer la discussion, dans le fond, les délibérations des pairs. Donc, on organise une journée de travail pour ces discussions-là. Et puis, lorsque le jury a fait son choix, la sélection est déterminée. Shannon et moi, on n'a aucun rôle là-dedans. C'est très important pour nous de vous informer à ce niveau-là qu'on ne prend pas les décisions, c'est le jury qui prend ces décisions-là. Et donc, lorsqu'on a leurs résultats, ensuite de ça, on peut partager les recommandations avec les artistes qui ont soumis leur demande. Donc, tout le monde reçoit une réponse, que ce soit positif, que votre demande a été acceptée ou non. Et puis, par la suite, bon, il y a les contrats, tout ça. Et éventuellement, nous, on publie des rapports sur notre site web, là, des programmes pour que vous puissiez voir là, tous les artistes qui ont reçu des subventions pour leurs projets. Puis ça, c'est une bonne façon aussi de savoir ce que les jurys recherchent. Donc, on vous encourage fortement à aller consulter ces rapports-là là, pour avoir une meilleure idée des projets qui ont été soutenus par le passé.
So before we hop into questions, I'm gonna go a little bit deeper on the jury process. So like I mentioned, the people who are doing the reviews usually have 2 to 3 weeks. The reason that time varies, it depends on the volume of applications. So on average, we usually get around 80 applications. Of those 80 applications, 12 to 15 of them end up getting some level of funding. However, on our last funding round in April, we received over 100 applications. I don't actually know why. I would love to know how we reach that wider audience and hope that we do get to continue to reach out to more artists to see those kind of applications coming in, because it was very exciting to see that people were learning more about the grants and coming in for applications. But because of that volume of applications and how much time it takes to properly review an application, because you as an artist, you want to make sure that people are giving your application the time it deserves, right? You don't want them to just be like, okay, done. Like you want them to be able to spend some quality time actually looking at applications. So we try to give them enough time so they can actually put quality time into it and really give your application the time and attention that it deserves so that it is properly evaluated.
Donc, un petit peu plus d'informations par rapport au jury, à l'évaluation. Excusez-moi, j'ai comme eu un petit blanc par rapport à ce que
Sorry.
Shannon vient de dire. Non, ça va. Donc, on a un petit peu plus, là, on a reçu beaucoup de demandes la dernière fois. On en a reçu plus de 100, ce qui est très excitant pour nous. On en reçoit habituellement, dans le passé, on en recevait à peu près 80 demandes à chaque ronde. Donc là, c'est encourageant pour nous de voir qu'on en reçoit plus. Ça veut dire qu'on rejoint les artistes à travers la province. Les projets soutenus par le passé, par contre, il y en avait en moyenne une quinzaine. Donc, on ne peut pas évidemment soutenir tous les projets reçus. Mais là, on a un petit peu plus de soutien dans cette ronde-ci. On a doublé le financement. Donc, c'est excitant pour nous là, de savoir qu'on va pouvoir soutenir plus de projets, plus d'artistes et puis aussi les projets à différents niveaux. Donc, on a bien hâte de voir là, ce qui va résulter du processus d'évaluation par les pairs là, grâce à ce soutien additionnel.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what happens this round, because as you may have heard, the funding amount available has doubled for this round, which is very, very exciting. So previously, the budget each round was $50,000 to go towards grants. It is now $100,000 each round. So it'll be really interesting to see the kind of projects that are submitted and how the jury decides to move forward with the funding of those projects. Because sometimes if you've received a grant in the past, you probably know this already, you don't always get the amount that you requested. And I believe the reason that happens is that the jurors want to see as many projects be funded as possible, which means they often will be doing a lot of math to try and figure out what can be not, yeah, they do a lot of math basically, and will kind of pull apart some budgets. So that's why having a really detailed and focused budget and project description is really helpful for the jurors, because it really helps them to understand the mechanics of your project and how your funds are going to be used and how important those funds are, and just all of that.
Ouais, fait qu'un petit détail, important que j'ai pas mentionné, encore, donc c'est ça, on passe de 50 000 à 100 000 pour les subventions aux arts, donc ça, c'est super excitant. Puis c'est très important pour vous de détailler le plus possible, votre budget et puis votre projet, les étapes, ce que vous comptez faire, comment, avec qui, tout ça, parce que le plus d'informations que vous donnez, les meilleures chances vous aurez là d'obtenir, du soutien là, une subvention pour votre projet. Et puis, évidemment, comme on l'a mentionné, le jury doit faire un choix. On ne peut pas soutenir tout le monde, malheureusement. Donc, parfois, par le passé, les jurys octroyaient pas toujours le montant total de la demande pour pouvoir soutenir un plus grand nombre de projets. Donc, ça va être intéressant maintenant qu'on a doublé là, le financement, de voir comment ça va être réparti.
Awesome. So with that, does anybody have any questions? We will allow you guys to unmute yourself as you need. If you want to maybe just use the hand raise icon, that's probably the easiest way for us to identify who has questions, and we will do our best to answer them. If you ask a question that either Eliane and I are not, or Megan, I think she's still with us, if the three of us aren't able to answer your question, we will get back to you with an answer, because we have all of your contact info from when you registered today. So we will do our best to provide you with the best information possible now. Or we can just all go eat lunch.
And feel free to use the Q&A or the chat if you don't want to come off mute, or, oh, we have one question coming in there. 1 second.
Oui, donc Hélène, est-ce que c'est comme ça? On le prononce en français?
So you should be able to.
OK, c'est bon. Oui, c'est ça, Hélène. En fait, moi, je suis très contente de pouvoir poser ma question en français déjà. Wouh! C'est bien apprécié. Oui, petite question. Est-ce que vous pouvez nous donner des informations sur les pourcentages de pointage? De qu'est-ce qu'il faudrait vraiment qu'on fasse attention? Je me souviens, j'avais envoyé une première fois un dossier, puis on m'expliquait qu'il y avait tant de points pour la faisabilité, tant de points pour... Est-ce que vous pourriez nous redonner un peu les informations là-dessus?
Je vais demander auprès de Shannon. Ce n'est pas quelque chose que j'ai encore eu la chance de voir dans mon travail. Shannon, I don't know if you understood her question. Yeah, if we're able to have the kind of breakdown of points. For the jury selection, yeah.
You will find the scoring metric, if that's what you're asking about. That is in those final reports for the Arts Grants thing. So the link that Madeline posted there in the chat, you will find all that information in those reports.
Est-ce que tu as compris sa réponse?
Oui, c'est bon.
D'accord,
merci beaucoup.
Parfait, merci.
Puis dans le fond, j'aurais comme une autre question pour avoir le micro.
Bien sûr.
Est-ce que c'est trop tard pour faire partie du jury de cette batch, de cette cohorte? Ou est-ce que vous cherchez des jurys tout au long de l'année, vous les répartissez ensuite selon l'année? Comment est-ce que ça fonctionne, les sélections pour être membre du jury?
Oui, donc on en cherche évidemment tout le temps. C'est bien de savoir que vous avez de l'intérêt par rapport à ça. C'est sûr que si vous appliquez, par contre, si vous soumettez une demande, vous ne pourriez pas faire partie du jury en même temps. Donc là, il y aurait conflit. Mais certainement, si vous n'avez pas l'intention de soumettre une demande de subvention, vous pourriez être considéré pour faire partie du jury. Ouais. Mais ça pourrait être, parce qu'on a aussi les subventions aux arts au printemps, donc ça pourrait être aussi à un autre moment. Ouais.
Merci.
Super,
So
ça fait plaisir.
I think the question was about applying to be on the jury. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're always looking for people to participate in the jury process. There is, on that same page where I believe the same link that Madeline shared there, you're going to find an actual application form to join the jury. we keep all of those on file. We reach out to people as we need them. We're always looking for people. And I always really recommend to people to participate in a jury, whether it's your first time applying for funding or whether maybe you've applied a few times, but you haven't been successful, because I find the jury process fascinating personally. I'm not going to lie. But I think you really do have an opportunity to learn a lot by participating in that side of things, because you get to see how things work on the other side and the kind of conversations that happen and the way people evaluate projects. And I think that helps to really inform how you create your application moving forward. I think there's a couple questions in the chat. Something
Yeah.
popped up. I think I saw Grace.
Yeah. So Grace asks, because there is more funding available, do you think more people will receive funds, or will people receive more funds? A little of column A and a little of column B.
Honestly, Eliane and I were talking about this earlier, and I can't wait to find out. I don't know. Jurors are very unpredictable. Like, my gut is it's probably going to be a little column A and a little column B. I think you will see projects being a little better supported, but I think you're also probably going to see more projects in general being supported. So it's exciting on both ends, but honestly, until we are in the room on that day, it's hard to know what people are going to do. And even when we're there, I still don't know what they're going to do. So yeah, it's kind of, it'll be interesting to see. I have some theories, but who knows?
Cool. So
That's
we do
all
have
the-
a couple. Oh, sorry, Eliane. We have a couple of hands up. So
Sweet.
Lindsay is showing up first. If you want to unmute yourself and ask a question.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just going into the application portal and just quickly wanted to just point out that your language of your grant is of the old language and it's not of your new language. So that just might be confusing for some people applying, just as a concern.
Oh, okay, that's good to know. They may.
Yeah, it's still
Yep.
written as creation and dissemination, and then
Right.
that, and I kind of felt like I was being crazy, but it's very hard to find
not
the
crazy.
apply online button because it's all at the bottom. It's at the very bottom of the page, and I'm
Yep.
not sure if you guys can figure out a way to link it a little bit better, but I think I scrolled through about 20 times and then went to the innovation site as well, being like, am I crazy? This has to be somewhere. Just because with I know the government sites are pretty formatted and everything, but
Yep.
just for accessibility and making sure people see it, just a few little things like that might be important, just especially as things are closing up on it.
No, that's awesome to know. And we will definitely talk to the folks on the tech side of things to see.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer about the button, but Madeline would actually probably know the answer, but it is pretty
Whether even it's just a link. Yeah. Whether even it's just like, because I know there's a lot of spots where it's like, click this link, and it's like, how do I do this? Or like, even if it's just like, how do I apply, and then click would be nice, just because I felt like I kept going through the questions looking for a link. And then finally I was like, oh, it's the tiny blue button at the bottom. But that was it. That's all I had to say.
Okay.
Thank you for that
Thank you so
feedback.
much.
Yeah, thank you, Lindsay. Danielle has a hand up as well.
Yes, thank you. So my question is regarding the change in terminology for the professional development section now becoming learn. I was hoping to apply this year and applying more for the professional development in regards to, like, personally, my situation is I'm an actress outside of my day job at Film PEI, but I am more geared toward acting for film and television. So for my professional development, some things that I need are a new acting reel with some acting clips, as well as some new headshots. And so they're a little bit more geared towards professional development as opposed to learning and taking like programs for workshops and that kind of thing, as well as much of the funding is great to have for that opportunity. Where I'm at the moment is looking for professional development funding, and I'm wondering if the change in terminology also changes the like geared towards like programs for learning, if that makes sense.
Sure. The change, in all honesty, the change in terminology hasn't resulted in any change in the types of projects that we're eligible when it was professional development. I
Okay.
think that's one of the reasons why we changed it, is because there was a misunderstanding of what was and was not eligible to be accessed through that funding. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question or if it helps, but what is eligible hasn't changed. It's really just the name of what it is, so that we were trying to make it more clear to people that this is the expected outcome, is that with professional
Right.
development, it's a learning opportunity. So whether you are taking a short course, or perhaps you are going to participate in a residency program somewhere, or you're being mentored in some way that's a paid
Yeah.
mentorship, it's those kinds of opportunities, which is really more what the Learn grant is geared towards, and less so about getting headshots done or reels done. Like that's, I've never seen an application for that, for starters. And I definitely haven't seen anything like that be funded. Not
Okay.
to say that you can't apply. I'm in all honesty, I'm not sure how a jury would respond to that, because I think what will happen, based on previous experience with juries, any application that comes in that feels like it is remotely geared towards marketing, jurors are not into that.
Okay.
I don't think we've ever seen an application go, like, actually get funded where the funds were provided for something that had any sort of marketing bit to it. And I think headshots and a reel and stuff like that would ultimately come under that. A similar example, like, this is a fun little anecdote for everybody. I don't know if we have any musicians on the call today. I didn't get a chance to look too deeply into the list, but we always end up getting applications for music videos. And without fail, and I cannot stress this enough, and I know I've said that a few times today, but one of the big things I have seen with jurors over and over and over again is that if a musician applies to have a music video made, it's a hard pass, because they see that music video as marketing material, where you're just trying to sell yourself, your tour, your album, whatever it is that that music video is supporting. But when a filmmaker applies to make a music video with an artist, suddenly it is about that filmmaker's artistic expression and et cetera, et cetera. And the jury is far more likely to support a project like that. So it really just comes down to some nuance.
That's extremely helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
I am looking to get coaching for my reel and my acting scenes that I'm looking to put together. So it's kind of more of the funding for covering like the coaching costs and getting that feedback and that assistance with that, as well as with some of the other stuff. So that's good to know that there is that different perspective, and to keep that in mind when applying. Thank you.
Excellent.
We do have a question in the chat, Shannon, that maybe I can jump to before we take another hand. Jessica
Sure.
asks, she's looking to apply for funding to create specific things for an art show. Does she need to have a scheduled art show already lined up at a gallery, or can Jessica apply for funding to help her create a body of work?
For sure. Hey, Jessica, big fan. Anyway, anybody who doesn't know Jessica is a visual artist. I am obviously a big fan of her work. Jessica, you do not need to have a show already scheduled. It's definitely recommended. It would make your application that little bit stronger. But ultimately, if you're applying for a CREATE grant, it is about the creation process and what it is you're going to make, et cetera, et cetera. As part of that project description, you will talk about what your next steps are for this project. So if you are building a body of work that you are hoping to show in an exhibition down the road, you mentioned that. You can say that it's not confirmed yet. You can say that you've reached out to galleries X, Y, and Z. But if you don't have anything confirmed, that's fine. If you do have it confirmed, including that information in your support documents is great. We have definitely funded some CREATE grants in the past for folks who were still working on the actual development of those projects, the creation of those projects, and then came back to us afterwards after they had received the funding. They're like, hey, just so you know, we ended up getting this show at the Guild and blah, 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 blah. A good example of that actually is the show that's at the Guild right now with Lisa Terrio and Evan Furness and Damian Worth. I believe all three of them in the last calendar year ended up getting support that ended up affecting that show that they are currently doing. So, and none of them had that confirmed when they had applied before.
Okay,
Who
we've got another hand up, Jamie, and you're unmuted whenever you're ready.
Yeah, hi. I just had a question, Shannon. I've been back and forth with you about just a little bit about the budget. I just want to make sure that my budget is as, strong as the rest of my application, or at least that, it's the part that I'm struggling with the most in terms of presenting what I'm trying to do in a way that the jury can understand. Because you're dealing with hypotheticals, I'm just not sure if I should focus this particular budget, because I have also applied to Canada Council directly to the possible amount that's available through the provincial grants, because with the Canada Council grants, my math is I don't know how to balance those two, because the Canada Council grant is set up just slightly differently. Without sort of a maximum amount, it kind of has both of the grants. Like it asks me to do a total amount, and then allows for the provincial and the federal amount. I'm not explaining myself very well.
No, I think I understand what you're trying to say. I do.
Right? I want this particular part of it to be as strong and sort of geared towards the audience that I'm submitting it to.
Yep.
I guess what I'm saying is, when I set it up with through your template, your Excel template, I end up having, there's a whole bunch of extra money that I'm hopefully going to be getting out of the Canada Council grant, and I don't know how to itemize that or explain it.
Sure. So I think what's the best path forward with that, if I'm understanding you correctly, so I get it. Like, you've asked for like 15,000 from Canada Council, and you're going to ask for 8,000 from us. So suddenly, if you are successful and receive full amounts of funding on both those things, you're asking how to balance it out on the other end. Is that it?
I'm asking how to, yes, exactly. Like, how to balance it out on this end. Let's use the numbers that you just used, right?
Yep.
So let's just say I'm asking for the full amount, and I end up getting the full amount, and I've itemized that on in my expenses, but in my revenue, I've got an extra X amount of dollars that I'm hoping to get from Canada Council. And It's just sort of hanging there, like, it doesn't have an itemized line. There's no explanation for it, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Sure. So in the budget, in the spreadsheet, you're able to add or remove line items as you need. So what I would really recommend, so again, using my pretend numbers, if you are ultimately hoping to secure like $23,000 for this application between like the various sources of funding, you're going to need to account for how that $23,000 is being used on the upper half. So what those expenses are, so that they match with what your revenues are. And we understand, like, everybody will understand that when they're reviewing it, that the dollar amount on the under half, like the revenues, they are anticipated unless they are confirmed. Like, you should know, like, I've applied for Canada Council. This is what I, have requested. This is unconfirmed, blah, blah, blah. Just so they understand. I find jurors really like to see that you have applied to Canada Council in the circumstances where that has happened, because it shows that you're thinking outside of provincial borders of how you're going to make a project happen. It shows that you're really, you're thinking it through. But yeah, what you're going to need to do, because I would assume, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't like assuming, with the budget that you would have submitted to Canada Council, would it have been for a similar amount of dollars, and would it have been detailed for them? Like, so that you would be like, I need X amount for travel, X amount for subsistence, X amount for whatever supplies, whatever the expenses are, like, because that's the kind of information that the jury is really going to want to see. Juries really don't like seeing a budget that comes in that just says, $8,000 and doesn't have any detail behind what that $8,000 are being used for, even if it is just, even if you are applying solely for subsistence, which is 100% an eligible expense, you just need to explain why you are applying for subsistence and how that will help in the overall project to move it forward.
Okay, yeah, that totally makes sense, and I think
Okay.
that the challenge that I think that because in the Canada Council grant, there's an artist, like part of their Excel spreadsheet has just an artist fee, right? So you're basically paying yourself, and then
Yep.
I can make the math balance that way. But with this, the living expenses have a maximum amount.
Yep.
Okay, and then I do have it broken down with all the other things that that I have in the other grant, but then there is an amount outstanding that doesn't fit into the math because there's no. So should I just put an artist fee as part of that?
Yep,
and
absolutely.
then in the revenue section, just put a little note saying that that this is part of this helps balance with what I've also applied with the Canada Council.
Yep, absolutely. And
Okay.
make sure that you note that any parts that are unconfirmed. So if you haven't heard back from Canada Council by the time you submit your application.
Yeah,
I'm
no, and these are
pretty sure you
both,
won't.
yeah, these are both ongoing right at the moment, right? So it's
Yeah.
everything's hypothetical. All the money is
Yeah.
hypothetical. So, okay, that really helps. Thank you.
Okay, good.
I noticed Lindsay has a hand up in the chat as well. I don't know if that's from the last question or if there's a new question.
That was definitely accidental.
It's all good. Any other final questions? I will put up Shannon and Eliane's contact info on our screen, so you'll have that.
I will make a quick plug for our social media while we're here. Just in case anybody isn't following us on Instagram or Facebook. We are PEI Culture Action Plan, all one word on both of those. If for some reason you are not following us, please follow us. Whenever you have projects coming up that need to be amplified, feel free to tag those pages because I am constantly sharing other people's stuff, especially in our stories. Our feed might be a little stagnant from time to time, but our stories are probably on the extreme other side of things where I am sharing a lot. So by all means, if you've got stuff going on, tag at PEI Culture Action Plan. I'm happy to share it. You can also email us stuff, whatever it is. Like we really are here to support you guys in your creative journey, whatever that looks like. And so if, whatever you need, give us a shout. Tag us on social media. I still use Twitter. I know nobody else does, but I do still use Twitter. You don't have to follow me personally because that's weird if you don't want to, but I do use the hashtag PEI Arts on Twitter. So that way you don't have to necessarily follow me, but you can just follow that hashtag and other people use it as well sometimes. So just making that plug for that terrible, horrible place that is still Twitter that I still share information to because I can't seem to quit it. I just don't engage a lot. Anyway, if there aren't any other questions, I guess we're probably done here.
Donc, s'il n'y a pas d'autres questions, on va conclure la séance d'information d'aujourd'hui. Un très grand merci à tout le monde d'avoir participé, d'avoir pris le temps de vous joindre à nous. Merci pour vos questions. Nos coordonnées sont là, à Shannon et moi, donc n'hésitez pas si vous avez des questions, s'il y a autre chose. On est toujours là pour vous soutenir dans vos projets et dans votre cheminement artistique. Merci beaucoup.
And the one last thing I'm going to throw a plug in here for is the newly created PEI Arts Awards, because I'm not sure if as many people are familiar with them. We will share the link here in the chat as well if you guys want to go check that out. It is the same application deadline date. There are some cash prizes that go with the Arts Awards, which is always exciting and helpful. So rather with the Arts Awards, I'll let Eliane give you guys a really quick rundown of what it is, but I just want to make sure that that's also on everybody's radar. Eliane.
Sure. Thanks, Shannon. So yeah, we're really excited about these inaugural Arts Awards. They're going to happen at the end of November, but the application period is open until October 25th as well. So just like the Arts Grants, you can self-nominate or nominate somebody else. We do have, thank you, Madeline, for putting that in the chat. So we do have information there, but really quickly, we have the categories of Cultural Creator of the Year. So that is an award that will be, there will be 3 awards in that category given out. We have an Organization of the Year award. We have, I don't remember all the names. So I'm going, thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Madeline.
Sorry.
So we have, no, that's fine. We also have the Standout Project of the Year award. So that can be recognizing an artist, an arts professional group or collective that has produced something innovative, addressing themes such as reconciliation, climate change, accessibility, digital innovation, etc. We also have the Gertie and Henry Purdy Emerging Visual Arts Award. So that one is for an emerging artist in the visual arts to support any activity really that encourages training, promotion, exhibition, and leadership in your field of practice. And then we have the Father Adrian Arsenault Seniors Arts Award. So that's actually awarded biannually, and it's to honor the excellence of the work of a senior island artist who's produced a significant body of work in various, or it can be in any artistic discipline, really. So we're super excited about this. Yes, and Shannon mentioned she put them all in there. And we do have the Leo Chevry, who was an important figure here in the PEI Arts and Culture scene. So the Cultural Connector of the Year Award is named in his honor. So voilà. Puis évidemment, je ne vais pas tout répéter en français, mais l'information est disponible dans les 2 langues et n'hésitez surtout pas à nous contacter là, si vous avez des questions là-dessus. Merci.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody, and good luck with your projects. And feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions between now and then. We will do our best to help you.
Merci tout le monde. Bonne journée.